to our May 18th afternoon only council meeting. We're very pleased to have members of the public joining us. Always, of course, our outstanding staff and our very caring city council. Before I open the meeting officially and call to order, I'm going to ask our prominent assistant city manager, Nat, to explain to folks who probably know the drill by now, how to participate via Zoom. So Nat, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Roberson. So there are two ways to participate in city council meetings. The first is to join directly onto Zoom using the Zoom app on your computer or mobile device. And the second method is to call into the meeting via telephone. To join the meeting on Zoom using your computer or smartphone, please use the link or the phone number on the agenda, which is located at isearchmonterey.org. Since the meeting is already started, you'll find the agenda under the Recent tab. To join us by telephone, please dial toll-free 1-833-568-8864, and then you'll be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is 160-772-9333#. And then when you're prompted to enter a participant ID, press pound one more time. Detailed instructions on how to use Zoom is available on our website at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you've dialed in by phone, you can raise your hand virtually by pressing *9 and then unmuting yourself by dialing *6 when it's your turn to speak. You must do both. Public commenters will be muted until it's their turn to speak. I will be calling on each public speaker in the order of their hands raised. We ask that you please stay within the time limit that we will be establishing for today's meeting, which will also show using a countdown timer on the screen. If you're connected on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. This meeting is also being streamed live on YouTube with a 10-second delay, and then also on Comcast Channel 25, which has a 90-second delay. As always, we look forward to receiving public comment from you this afternoon.
All right, good. Thank you very much, Nat. So we'll call our meeting to order, and then I would invite everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And so is our very proficient MK, are you clerking for us for this meeting?
I certainly am.
Well, good. Well, welcome. Glad to see you. Would you introduce the caring city council for me, please?
I will. Thank you. Councilmember Albert.
Here.
Councilmember Hoffa.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Roberson.
And I'm here as well. Thanks so much. First thing we're going to do is presentations, and we want to recognize National Public Works Week. And I'm going to momentarily turn this over to our prudent city manager. Before I do that, though, when he is finished, we'll share part of a proclamation. But just thinking about public works, especially during the COVID pandemic, and how much they've done for the city, and how there are 4 different departments: engineering, construction, management, and environmental design division. That's just one. Maintenance services, harbor, and parking. Those 4 divisions in public works have been busy. And like many of our other city functions, they've had to change their mission somewhat in the services that they offer. I know people have seen with Measure P and Measure S the continual improvement of our streets, sidewalks, storm drains, and ADA access. And the pavement index is increasing really well. So there's a lot going on. And sometimes perhaps we just take it for granted that our public streets, our buildings our sewer and storm drains, et cetera. We just take them for granted, but we know there are a lot of people working very hard to maintain the first-class city that we have. So I'll turn it over now to our prudent city manager, Hans Uslar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. 2021 Public Works Week is upon us. It is a long-standing tradition in the city of Monterey that we are celebrating National Public Works Week. In past years, we also used the opportunity also to display our equipment and also some services that we are offering downtown during the old Monterey Marketplace on Tuesdays. I remember we showed our vector trucks, street sweepers, our aerial lift trucks that we had at that time, etc. We handed out little tree seedlings and did a lot of other things downtown. And so it has been a long-standing tradition for us to celebrate the folks that are working in public works. And as you pointed out, Mr. Mayor, during COVID-19, these were also essential workers. And they did their job all around town, and as you stated, from the engineers who helped us repave a lot of streets down to the sewer systems that had to continue to be functional. Our folks, the public works folks, were everywhere, including leaving public restrooms open for a great deal of the homeless population that uses those restrooms day to day. So National Public Works Week is a great opportunity to just recognize those folks that do not have the PR as other essential workers have, such as the firefighters, the police officers, and the healthcare workers. And with that, I hand it over to Steve Witry, who will introduce the presenter for today.
Thank you, Hans. It's my pleasure to actually introduce Marissa Garcia. She's one of our newer employees. She's been with the city for a little while now, just going into a little bit past her first anniversary. She was actually able to get her on board. We stole her from a consultant. Many times we hear the stories of our staffs going to consulting agencies. We were able to actually steal Marissa to come this way. So really enjoy having her here. She brings a wealth of experience. One thing I just wanted to note is that we apparently had a small typo on our report. We neglected to mention the streets and fleet division, which not specifically called out in the staff report, but certainly are a very important portion and part of public works. So with that, I'm just going to turn over to Marissa. She's going to have a little presentation for the rest of the process.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, council members. Thank you for allowing me to highlight Public Works Week. I'm just going to share my presentation. And can we all see it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you, Marissa.
Great, thank you. All right. Technical difficulties. So thank you for allowing me to highlight the stronger, and if there's something that you, Mr. Mayor, and Hans both highlighted, it's the hard work that the Public Works Division did, and we worked stronger together. So it's something that I believe we embodied this year, and it's something that we'll continue to embody this next year and further on. So Public Works Department is one of the city's largest departments. And here are all of our divisions. This is our group photo for this year, and hopefully next year you'll be able to see all of our bright and smiling faces much closer than 6 feet apart. So we have Public Works Administration, Harbor, Parking, Streets and Utilities, Fleet Management, General Services, including PMSA, our Presidio Municipal Support Services, and Engineering, Construction Management, and Environmental Compliance. So our administration team, they keep the ship afloat and make sure that to keep us on track. Engineering, Construction Management, and Environmental Regulations, a group that I'm a part of. Harbor, one of the more unique divisions of Monterey, given our unique coastal. General Services, who keep, and we're thankful that they keep all of our facilities clean and well maintained, including our Presidio Municipal Support Services. Fleet Services, who keep all of us in the city running, highlighting our some of our fire fleet that they keep well maintained. Streets and Utilities, and Parking, who are in charge of many infrastructure buildings in our city. And with that, I'd just like to leave you again with Stronger Together. It's something that I think we embody, and it's something that I hope we continue to embody. And thank you very much for your time.
All right, Hans, anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you very much, Marissa, for the presentation. Public Works is very capital intensive, is funded through general fund, but also through a variety of special funds. Their budget is usually somewhere between $20 to $30 million, including the special fund allocations. So it is a pretty large part of our operation and our enterprise here in the city of Monterey. And I want to express my gratitude to all the team members out there who really helped us get through the COVID-19 challenges in a great way. Our capital projects actually increased during the time because we just had the opportunity of having less traffic on the street, and we could do a lot of more jobs that we were doing. Sometimes the vision is not seen by all of the folks that what we are building, but trust me, this Public Works is not a short game, it's an end game that we are playing. One of those come to mind is the North Fremont connection to Fortec, that you will soon hear again in front of council. So a lot of the things that are being done in Public Works are done that are built with an eye for the future. So with that, again, I want to express my gratitude to all our team members. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. And I would like to go ahead and highlight just a little bit the proclamation, which is, I think it highlights not only what's being done in the city of Monterey, as you pointed out, but just nationally. And so this is the 61st Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. And it does talk about public works professionals who focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are important to public health, quality of life, and well-being of our citizens. And so you go all the way from department heads to engineers to managers to employees at all levels who are responsible for rebuilding and improving our nation's transportation, and in this case, Monterey, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems. Those are obviously public work employees as well, maybe not necessarily for the city of Monterey, but our partners. And it's just really important that we know that this is not only for the adults, but for children as well, when you think about all of the parks and activities that the city has. So it's always a great deal of pleasure to recognize our city on behalf of the City Council and the citizens to declare March 16th through 22 as National Public Works Week, and definitely in the city of Monterey, and we are definitely grateful. As the city manager was pointing out, with that budget, the Public Works Department serves the Presidio, the Naval Postgraduate School, the Harbor, which is a special fund, as well as the Marina Fund, Tidelands, lots of special funds. We have sewer funds and storm drain funds as well. So a lot of those funds are designated, can't be used for the general fund. Then the general fund also contributes. So it's a very complex and very much appreciated part of our city. So thank you so much again. Public comments, we'll go to public comments. These are items that are not on the agenda and hopefully within the jurisdiction of the city of Monterey. And we'll like to hear from people. Again, because of the Brown Act, we're here to listen. Since it's the comments that we're going to have are not agendized, the council cannot deliberate because of state law. But please leave a contact, or you can also contact us at suggest@monterey.org. And if you leave a contact, we absolutely guarantee that our very professional staff will get back to you if you have a need that you can identify and contact us. So with that, Nat, let's open up and see who we have who'd like to share with us.
Okay, so we do have one hand raised so far, and Mr. Mayor, are we running a 3-minute timer today?
Yes, please.
Okay, we can do that. And we'll start with Mr. Dave Lucas, who has his hand raised, and we welcome you, Mr. Lucas, to Monterey City Council meeting.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to read a piece of paper here that I have for you. I am the senior pastor at Calvary Chapel Lighthouse Fellowship, and we've been meeting at Cannery Row and doing an outdoor church. And the comment I have is Calvary Chapel Lighthouse Fellowship has been meeting outside since Sunday, May 31st, 2020, due to the coronavirus shelter-in-place order. We started at the Old Coco's restaurant in Pacific Grove and moved to the Cannery Row parking lot in February 2021. During this time, we've seen countless people and families turn to Christ and have a positive change in their life because of Jesus. Because of the shelter-in-place order, we've been able to facilitate services by meeting in cars in the parking lot and preaching via the FM radio station. People have been able to social distance and still have the gospel shared with them and experience a sense of the presence of God. Because the gospel has been boldly spoken, we've seen people turn their faith to Jesus. We've seen homeless people find hope, jobs, homes, and become productive citizens in our society. We've seen people reinvest in their marriages and families. We've had people on vacation come up and thank us for being available. We've seen alcoholics turn to Christ and save their marriages because of the hope and strength they found in Jesus. This has been both a foundational time for Calvary Chapel Lighthouse as well as the city of Monterey. This city was founded upon the principles of the Bible taught by Father Junipero Serra, and it's wonderful to see those principles at work in an open forum today. Our desire is to remain outside, to be a church without walls, preaching the gospel of Jesus on Sunday mornings, for people to be encouraged, empowered, and filled with the love of Christ. We're not anti-government, nor do we want to be a discouragement to our community. We want to be a part of the rebuilding and the fabric of the Monterey Peninsula. We feel God has started something very special, very real and powerful and beautiful. We would like to thank the city of Monterey for affording us the time, permits, and goodwill these last several months, not only to serve our body, but also to be a resource for so many from our community and the communities around us. We recognize this is not traditional, but it's also not impractical. Please consider extending that goodwill by granting us an outdoor venue for Sunday morning church services. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir. And let's see if we have any other callers. Looks like we do not. So back to Mayor Roberson.
All right, good. And I just want to remind the pastor to go ahead and reach out to our city staff with your request. We appreciate that, and thanks for your good work during the pandemic. And so we'll go to consent items. And one of the things I'd like to ask, not to pull them, but I'm going to ask our city manager to very quickly explain how number 4 and 5 work, in that the city is awarding 2 tree maintenance job order contracts not to exceed $1 million. And I thought it would be worthwhile, and also on the procedural, just to briefly, without pulling it, just explain how that sort of thing works. We do that more in other situations as too, where we have a contract not to exceed. So Hans, if you would, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are 2 contracts that we suggest to award to West Coast Arborist as well as Topes tree services for up to $1 million in the city, and another set of 2 contracts for up to $1 million work that has to be done on the Presidio of Monterey on the federal property. Both contracts are basically job order contracts that are not allocating a total of $4 million to that, but it allows us to allocate funding up to a certain limit to those two tree contractors. Traditionally, we are spending with the city tree contractors about $500,000 per year in tree work to maintain the city's urban forest, and we're spending anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 on the Presidio of Monterey in tree work there. So last year, as you can tell, it was something of $650,000 on both sides, on the city as well as the Presidio of Monterey. What it does also allow us, of course, is to flex our ability to respond. And it's not too long ago that we had really massive winter storms, and we had 30, 40, 50, 60 trees falling over or requiring immediate help. So it's always good to have also two tree contractors on retainer who can quickly jump into action, clear the roads, and help us with the tree work. So again, tonight you are just awarding the ability for us to work with two different tree contractors on the city side, but also the same tree contractors to work on the bill, courtesy of paying by the federal government on the federal side of the.
Yes. Very good. And is some of this money originate from the NCIP for debris removal and fire safety, or is that a different contract?
I don't know how specifically this contract is bid. There might be elements in there for greenbelt fuel reduction. I remember from my days in public works, this was a separate contract that was bid for greenbelt fuel reduction. But I see we have Louis Macuso here online, and I hope he can answer that question. Louis, can you answer that question?
Yes, you're correct, Hans. The Greenbelt contract will be coming up in August. These two are just specifically for tree work.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thanks for the information, because I know the tree maintenance and fuel reduction are pretty high priorities for several of our neighborhoods.
Yep.
Council questions, pull anything? We're good. And any public comment that we have, Nat?
No public comment.
Okay, I'll entertain a
Move to
motion.
approve.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Allen, seconded by Councilmember Dan. And MK is going to do roll call, please.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Councilmember Haka,
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Yes.
Mayor Roberson.
And yes.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, our first public hearing is an ordinance to rezone 940 West Franklin Street to have a historical designation, and it also authorize a Mills Act contract. That's a property tax savings to the property owner. And in exchange, the property owner enters into a certain amount of contracts of how to maintain their building. And this has gone through the HPC. I believe that's where it goes to first, but since it is a zoning amendment, it does have to come in front of the city council. But we always enjoy these for a couple of reasons. One is because we get to hear Fernanda make a very nice presentation. And secondly, it's always fun to hear and see some of the historic homes that we have out in our community. So Hans, I'll turn it to you, please.
Mr. Mayor, you took away my word, so I punt it over to Fernanda, please.
Yes, Councilmember Tyler?
If I could actually real quick, so this is within 500 feet of my property. So I'm gonna go ahead and recuse myself and mute my camera and my mic for this discussion.
Okay.
Thank you. I will make a presentation, so I'll share my screen. Okay, my name is Fernanda Roveri. I'm the interim principal planner for the city of Monterey. And today the city council is considering a historic rezone and Mills Act request for 940 West Franklin Street. So An intensive historic survey was prepared by qualified architectural historian Kent Stevie. And in preparing that survey, he found that the property qualifies as a local historic resource under the California Register of Historic Resources, specifically criterion number 3. This criterion says that the property can be eligible to be designated historic if it's significant under the area of architecture. And this house was found to be a good and essentially intact example of the Spanish colonial bungalow style, which started to be found in Monterey in the 1920s. And as Mr. Mayor said, the Historic Preservation Commission and Planning Commission have already reviewed this project and have recommended that the City Council approve the rezone and mill tax. Oops. These are just a few photos of the house. Again, this is in the Spanish colonial bungalow style. And some of the character defining features of this style include its one-story wood framed form, its textured stucco exterior wall cladding, low-pitched side gabled mission tile roof, and parapeted membrane-covered flat roof, irregular tapered shaped stucco chimney with caramel stone veneer at the base, and a caramel stone terraced entry enclosed by a shaped low stucco wall with decorative metal grille work. And this bungalow is known as the Samuel and Bertha Janvey House. It retains all 7 aspects of historic integrity, including its location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. The recommendation today is that the council approve a first reading of the ordinance to rezone the property and the resolution authorizing a mill tax contract. Additionally, we ask that the council fix the typo in the ordinance, which is on packet page 45. The date was wrong, so today's public hearing is on May 18th, not May 4th. So if that could be included in the motion, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your report and sharing that very beautiful house with us. Do we have the owner as part of the presentation that you know of, Fernanda?
No, he did not communicate that he was gonna make a presentation.
All right, perhaps he'll be, he or she will be speaking under public comments. We'll see. So unless there are any questions from the council, we'll go to public comments. Do we have any public comments on this item, please?
It appears that no one has their hand raised at this time. And we just remind folks who are joining us by telephone to please dial *9 if they do wish to speak on this item. But since we have not, we don't have any raised hands, including our one caller by telephone, I believe we do not have public comment on this item.
All right. In that case, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council, and I'll make a motion to pass the first reading as corrected. On the second. All right. And then roll call, please.
Councilmember Hapa,
Yes.
Councilmember Albert,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
and Mayor Roberson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. It's always, as I said, it's always really fun to see historic homes and how nicely people take care of their homes, whether they're historic or not. So the next item is also a public hearing to levy assessment to fund the Cannery Row, New Monterey, and North Fremont Business Improvement Districts. And these districts have been in existence for quite a while. And every year we have to go through an assessment vote. And as I understand, this is a protest hearing, as I recall, and if the city manager can make sure I'm on the right track. And we find out not how many people want to do it, but how many people are opposed to it. And also, as I remember, Hans, didn't we actually have ballots or some voting at the meeting, or was that a different kind of assessment district?
That's a different assessment district. That's Cali Principal and Alvarado Street Assessment District.
Okay.
That will come to a council meeting very soon to you.
So at this point, this is a protest hearing, so we would recognize any written protest. It's my understanding. Did we get any that you know of?
No, we did not receive any, and Kim Cole can give us a 1-minute clip of what's going on, Mr. Mayor, and then if the council wants to take public comments and take the vote, that would be great.
Okay, good. And we'll find out if during public comments if anyone is okay. So we'll turn to our principled Community Development Director, Kim, and you can correct everything that I got wrong.
Actually, you got about 100% right. So
thank you.
So this afternoon, the City Council will be considering the annual levy of assessment for our business improvement districts. As you're well aware, we have 3 business improvement districts that require this action annually: the Cannery Row Business Improvement District, the North Fremont, and the New Monterey. And state law establishes this process where business districts and businesses can come forth and self-assess themselves. So this really isn't a city-imposed assessment. It is one that the businesses themselves propose, but the city is required to hold this vote annually to make sure that they want to continue in this process. It's by law a 2-step process. At the first meeting, and you did this back in early May, you approve the advisory board, you accept their annual report, and you set the public hearing date very formally through a resolution. And then the purpose of today's hearing is for you to actually levy the assessment. And just a brief highlight, each business improvement district submitted their work plan, and they're great partners. Some of the fun projects that they anticipate taking on next year: for Cannery Row, they're continuing to devote quite a bit of money to maintenance in their district, cleaning some of their trash cans and the benches and all of the nice infrastructure that they've installed down there. In total, their work program is about $225,000 they plan to spend next year on work program items. The Lighthouse Business District, they do some great promotional activities, and it's really fun that they're going to be starting the movies in the park again and doing some of the promotions and advertising they do for that district. It's a much smaller district in terms of their revenue. It's about $20,000 in proposed expenditures. And then the North Fremont District, they're planning to spend about $43,000 next year on a variety of upgrades to the business improvement district. So with that, we're recommending that you open the public hearing, see if there are any protest votes, and if not, depending on the number and the total, that you adopt the levy of assessment for this next year. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions before we go to the public? All right, let's see if there's any public comment, please, Nat.
We do not have public comment.
All right, so this was also an opportunity for people to protest orally. They don't have to necessarily do it in writing, and it sounds like everybody's pleased with our 3 business districts, so that's very good. So we'll bring it back to the council for action.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, unless there's no discussion, we'll go right to roll call.
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Hapa,
Yes.
Councilmember Albert,
Yes.
and Mayor Roberson.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, then public appearance. One of the ways that our city manager has been reaching out during the COVID-19 pandemic has been giving periodic updates here at our city council meetings. I really want to thank Hans for all of his yeoman work that he's done over a year now, keeping everyone informed and how our city has been flexible, what the rules are. And it's a little bit of the wild, wild west out there when you think about the latest CDC mask directive, where vaccinated people are told that they don't have to wear their masks, and unless they're in a confined room with non-vaccinated people, and how you figure that out is beyond me. And secondly, the state of California hasn't adopted those rules yet, nor has the county. So it's always good to have Hans just bring everybody up to date on a local level what's going on. I don't know if he's going to mention, but he can mention it as well as I will. And that is, use the city's website. It's really excellent, and it has a lot of good information on it. Have Your Say Monterey is one link, and also monterey.org coronavirus. And you can also take a look at city manager talking on YouTube, Monterey Mornings with the Manager. And also there's a daily update, City of Monterey update, that is absolutely incredible. Not only does it have information on vaccines, the COVID cases, recoveries, but it covers everything that's going on into the city and the special events that people might want to enjoy. And all of this has been not just necessarily new, but enhanced, because it's very important for the city to be transparent. And that's one of the value drivers of the city council. So we're always pleased to have our city manager updated. So Hans, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You should see on your screen now my brief slide presentation. Actually, we are now 431 days into the emergency declaration, which started March 13, 2020. Wow. But from my slides that I present to you tonight, you will hopefully see that I'm running out of stuff to report. So I'm happy about that. And hopefully that trend will continue. Overall, what you can see on that slide is that we are trending very well across the United States. COVID-19 is hitting. COVID-19 is diminishing by the numbers. All the different measures that were put in place are working. You see the spikes that we experienced, and definitely with the increase of the vaccinations, we are seeing clearly that the numbers are trending way downwards. Here's another bit of nationwide good news. Vaccination rates for 65 and older is trending towards 85%. Meaning 85% of our population 65 and older have at least one shot in their arms. Fully vaccinated folks 65 and older are almost 73%. And again, this is good news because this population segment was affected the most by the hospitalization and fatality rates. When you look at Monterey County, and you look at our curve, here is basically the curve showing the new cases reported. And you see that we are also trending absolutely into the right direction. I remind you about our discussions that we held in February, March about migrant workers coming from Yuma, Arizona into Monterey County, helping with the harvest in Salinas Valley. And you see all the discussions that were held and all the measures that were being discussed and all the good work by a lot of public health officials in conjunction with community advocates and representatives of different labor groups, as well as elected officials. All this has shown also to be very efficient for our county itself, because just a couple of months ago, we had different worries. We had concerns about our numbers trending upwards again. Vaccination rate in the city of Monterey, 59% of our residents have at least one dose received. Now, there's an interesting alternative reality to that. When you look at the overall numbers of COVID infections that we had in the city of Monterey, that number represents about 3% of our population. So one can make the argument also that there might be another 3% of folks that are carrying some sort of immunity also against COVID-19. But here, if we just stick to the vaccination rate, 59% of Monterey residents have been vaccinated. We are still in the orange tier. We had hoped last week to get into the yellow tier, but some of the data points were not right or trending not in the right direction. What does orange tier mean? It means basically 50% of capacity across restaurants and several other places can be accomplished. You still have to wear the mask inside, and Mr. Mayor, I try to avoid that mask topic to not get into all those different connotations and changes that are affected by the CDC guidelines, as well as the renewed guidelines or directions given yesterday by Dr. Gully from the California Public Health Department. The county also over the past 460 days or so has become pretty skilled in changing their messaging, adapting quicker. And here's the latest from their communication office to encourage folks, don't drop your mask yet. We are still under state masking guidelines, and it can be confusing when you hear on the news that Costco and Trader Joe's, for instance, have dropped the mask requirements. But that applies just for those states where you don't have the state guidance that you have to wear a mask inside of grocery stores like we have in California. So I think those differences are difficult for some folks to understand, and it's up to us to communicate that as much as we can. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for mentioning our communication channels which have been used very widely by our residents or by folks living here on the Monterey Peninsula. What are we doing? Are we doing outdoor mask enforcement? No, not really. We removed the signs from the recreation trail. We removed signs from Cannery Row and Wharf 1 where we had mandated face mask. We also changed the variable messaging signs to basically point now to parking spaces that are available. So our outdoor mask enforcement really has been reduced significantly just because the CDC guidelines and the state guidelines allow for people who are vaccinated to walk outside without a mask. And for those who are not vaccinated, if they can maintain 6 feet distance, they also are not required to wear a mask. We still have the mask fines active, and we can still issue mask fines for those areas where still masks are mandatory. For instance, in grocery stores, for instance, inside restaurants by the serving personnel, etc. So we still have the $100 fines active, and we are still working on a complaint-based code compliance, code enforcement in businesses. And here's the good news. Old Monterey Marketplace will be back next Tuesday. You heard it from me, hopefully first. Rick Johnson called me shortly before lunch and shared the good news with me. And it will be a small version of the Old Monterey Marketplace. They will start up just with farmers coming back, agricultural vendors. You can do you can buy a lot of other things on Tuesday market evenings in Monterey, but they want to ramp it up slowly because frankly, our marketplace is a very popular place, and from visiting it personally how many hundreds or thousands people are frequenting that market. So it will be back. And what we are also discussed, and what I know Rick Johnson has also reached out to our fire department, is to potentially offer also for that reopening a potential drop-in vaccination clinic. And we will hopefully have our vaccinators out there with appropriate vaccines. I don't know what it will be. It could be either Johnson & Johnson or Moderna, both vaccines we have right now in our refrigerators. And we'll try to partner with that and make it another vaccination event as well. And that, Mr. Mayor, concludes my presentation.
Thank you. As always, very thorough. Council questions? Let's public comment.
No comments for the public.
All right. So that's an update. It doesn't require any action. So thanks so much. And it's certainly a changing field out there, isn't it? And we'll see what happens June 15th with respect to the governor's opening up the state orders. Council comments. Anyone want to start first? Councilmember Tyler, you want to start us off today, please?
Yes, Mayor. So just from the front of Monterey One Water, our recycled water committee met last week, and we made a recommendation to the board, which is meeting later this month. Our staff has worked to go into a water purchase agreement with Cal-Am regarding an additional 500 acre feet of water. So we have the source water available, and I've been talking about this for the last several months, but if you all recall, we're developing 2 additional deep wells, and once those finish getting produced, we'll have enough capacity. So the base project of Pure Water Monterey actually has additional capacity to produce some additional water here. So once the wells are developed, we'll be able to move forward with the water purchase agreement that we have with Cal-Am for the additional 500 acre feet. And with that, we might be able to get ourselves lifted from the CDO. So that's some pretty exciting news. We're hopeful that at least one of the deep wells will be finished by November. And then there's still conversations going on for a long-term water purchase agreement for the expansion, which will provide an additional 2250 acre feet per year. So lots of good stuff happening on the Monterey waterfront, and just wanted to provide that update to you all.
And thank you for serving on that very important board too. And you've had some excitement there, and it's very interesting to see the direction you're going in. Thanks so much. Councilmember Ed?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just wanted to also acknowledge last week, of course, it was an off-council week, so we did not get to make note of it, but was the National Law Enforcement National Police Week of last week. So I want to acknowledge that. And there was a variety of services at the National Memorial in Washington. But due to the COVID, obviously the restrictions were in place. So just wanted to highlight that, and the acronym that's associated with it is respect, honor, and remember. So that was last week for our national law enforcement, of course, and California law enforcement recognition. And the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, also made note of the recognition for that on behalf of the federal government. On the local board action, the Transportation Authority, Monterey County, is in the midst of recruiting for new executive director.
Yeah.
So the recruiter we have called for board members to engage in terms of scoping and outlining the expectation we have for that new individual for the executive director's position. So I would invite the council members and staff and the public, if they want to engage, please contact me through my email, smith@monterey.org, or my published phone number is 831-601-5013. Feel free to call me and give me your input in terms of the individual and the type of person that you would like to see in the position of the executive director. So that recruitment will be going on for the next 30 days or so. And next week on Wednesday, we have a Transportation Authority meeting for a progress report. So would invite you all to make your comments and tell me the kinds of things that you need in that executive director. Mr. Mayor, that's all.
Okay, and Ed, thank you for serving on TAMSI, and good luck recruiting a new exec, because you've had Debbie there for a long, long time, and it's always hard to replace someone.
Yeah, she's definitely set the bar.
Absolutely. Councilmember Allen, council comments?
Yeah, I have one comment. Yesterday, I met with the Director of Community Human Services and Hans and Kim to get an update on Casa de Noche Buena, the Peninsula homeless shelter. And basically, it's been open since mid-January, I think January 19th, so about 4 months. In that time, the shelter has served 28 individuals, 10 of whom are children. And over that time, over the last 4 months, 9 people have left the shelter, and of those 9, 8 have found permanent housing.
Wow.
So that's about 30%, which I think is a pretty promising start. So just wanted to share that positive news with you all.
Oh, that's great. And thanks for serving on the Community Human Services Board too. Councilmember Dan?
Mayor Klett, I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay. And last night we had a Monterey Peninsula Water Management District meeting. I'm going to say the word rationing, but we're not rationing. There was the discussion of about the water supply and adequacy. And actually, there is enough water in storage for this year as well as into the next water year. And so we're not even talking rationing. There are rules in place. Those of us who've been around a while remember those days. However, the district does encourage everyone to count every drop and be very careful so we don't have to go into any of the rationing stages. We're not, doesn't look like we're going to go there whatsoever. Partially thanks to Monterey One Water and Public and Pure Water Monterey, our recycling. Then secondly, as I've told you before, the district has an application in front of LAFCO, which is a county body in charge of boundaries and governments. And so the staffs of both agencies are currently working about the potential acquisition of Cal-Am by the water district. And there are certain state laws that apply here that allow the district to exercise its latent powers, which means the district can be a retailer and deliverer of water. And actually the district's already doing that, which leads to the third item. If you want some actually really interesting reading, honestly, there's an annual report that comes out every year. It's we just approved the draft last night, but it talks about the water management district, all the things that it's doing, what its revenues are, the sources of revenue, expenses, its partnerships. And if it's a really good overview and also updates everybody. So you can go on Monterey Peninsula Water Management District, just look up the annual report. There'll be a new one very shortly. Very, very informative. Then I had some fun this weekend too. Not that the water board wasn't fun last night, but I went to Park Lane this weekend and they were celebrating International Family Day. Spectre Dance did a beautiful performance and they were going to be outside, but it was one of those cold, drizzly days. And the young ladies from Spectre Dance just did an absolutely beautiful presentation and dance for us all. Then afterwards, everyone was downstairs out in the courtyard wearing masks. And Park Lane was especially happy to be able to be out barbecuing, interacting, because as you know, many of our senior housing got hit terribly hard by COVID. People were confined to their rooms, meals were delivered, they were in total and terrible isolation. So that's another good thing that's happening out there. So that was at Park Lane. City manager reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep it very brief as well. The Monterey Bay Aquarium opened this weekend on Saturday for the first time to paying customers. Prior to that, there were visitors that were allowed in there based on their membership. It's a reserved system that they put in place. They sold out on Saturday. The maximum allowable number they have right now are 2,000 visitors per day. And I looked at the parking data on Monday morning, and even though it was drizzly and a cold weather, we could see that parking in Cannery Row on that side of town where the aquarium is has picked up. So overall, generally the parking data shows us that people have returned to Monterey and keep coming to Monterey, and we hope that we see the trend continue also and reflective in our sales tax data, as well as the upcoming April data for the transient occupancy tax, the hotel tax. So last but not least, we are still working the numbers for our upcoming budget, and we hope to present it to you on June 15th for the first time. So that is my update. I want to remind you, next week, Wednesday, we have a closed session only session where we have 2 or 3 real estate items and a litigation update for you as well.
Thanks so much. Well, as always, I want to thank our outstanding council, our staff, and public who've joined us for another remarkable, very informative city council meeting. And we may have set a new world's record adjourning at 5:02. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.